Broadbell Speaks.
Oh, well, how was your day today, Broadbelt?
It was it was good. It was good.
I had a good day too. I've been doing a lot of researching um, on some things and came across this one clip that I wanted to bring up here.
hmm
And it was a clip about men in our society today and how they're less masculine. And so what I did was I called around to other men and asked their opinion because I'm not the one to give an opinion on it, even though I have a lot of opinions. But I asked different generations. Like I asked my dad about do he think this generation of men are less masculine, and then I even went to asking some young adults like 18 and asking them, and they were what they said was really different because they feel like they are just as masculine. They related it to the NBA basketball. And what they were saying that all the old heads always say that the defense was much better back in the day, but from their point of view, the defense is just as good. Then I asked the middle age, and they had some things to say about the generation now being weaker. But I wanted to get you guys' opinions on that. Do you feel like the generation now? The males, are they weaker now or less masculine now? What do y'all think?
I don't. I wouldn't say weaker as far as physical, because they are. That to me that no, I don't see that. The physicality is there, if not more, because just with evolution we get faster and stronger and quicker as we evolve. You see it in sports because of nutrition and new types of workouts that are specific to certain muscles. All of these things are beneficial to this generation. But as far as being masculine, that's different.
Mm.
And this is strictly opinionated. I would say from the people I've encountered, young, mid-range, and then older, it's a big difference between the older and the mid compared to the young as far as the masculinity that you run across. The older are very direct and straightforward, and they came from a time where there was wars going on. Things were a lot more in your face as far as a man stood for certain things that align with their present.
Mm-hmm.
And there was more of a separation back then of the role of a man and the role of a woman. So you had all of that. And I see so much. I think I was telling you one time, if a man is, let's say that there's things escalate between two men. If both of them are talking, or let's say one is talking a lot, he doesn't want to engage in any type of physical altercation.
Mm-hmm.
He's not really trying to fight. That's why he's talking. If he wanted to fight, he would have just started fighting. But instead, he's talking and like talking a lot. I'm not saying talking in regards of trying to resolve it before it gets to that point. I think once it's reached a point where it's about to be physical, but they're still talking, and the other person is quiet because they're at that point where they're ready. And they always say, especially for men, when one gets quiet, that's when you have to watch, because they're about to just react at that point. They're tired of talking. But I do think it's a big difference between this generation as far as their masculinity compared to past generation. But physicality, I don't think
Okay.
is a thing. And I just want to think about it because when I look at just the young men I see sometimes, even in the conversation, they can appear more sensitive at times, more emotional at times than what I was used to growing up. When I was young, I just say like we fought a lot, but it was playful, play fighting, but it was fighting. So it was always some idea. So growing up in Chicago, it was always, you had in grammar school, it was always 2 classes for every grade. So 3rd grade is 2 classes for 3rd grade, 2 classes for 4th grade, 2 classes for 4th grade. And when I mean 2 classes, meaning you had 2 separate classrooms that represented the 3rd grade class for that year. So we would always fight against each other. So whatever 3rd grade class you was in, then that was your class. In the other 3rd grade class or the other 4th grade or 5th grade, it was all the way up into 8th grade. It was always like that. You fought each other, but it was play fighting, but it was very physical. So if you walking, don't ever walk by yourself. You're going to get jumped by the other class if they see you by yourself. And it was straight body blows, kicks, you might get slammed. Like it was just physical.
But y'all was just playing.
It was playing, but I mean, you getting your licks in, like you swinging, you doing like, you're not, it's no face, you're not hitting in the face. It's nothing like that, but you're being physical. You're taking it as far to the edge as you can without going over the edge. Because if you went over the edge, then now it's a real fight. Now you and that person about to really get in the fight, and everybody that's huddled around watching. And of course, kids always wanted to see people fight. But now I just don't see that type of physicality. And maybe it's just the difference in where I'm now, being in the South. I don't know if they ever encountered that here. I've never asked anyone within my age demographic if they went through that. Like I said, for us, it was just normal. Nothing of a negative thing. Like it was fun. So I feel like it sounds like we were just bashing each other.
No.
But it was definitely a fun time as far as with that. And then we were so, you know how we talk about the kids are in the house more because they interact with people in other states, cities, countries, because of the internet. We didn't have the internet, so we were outside all the time, and we were always racing, playing tag, wrestling. Growing up watching Hulk Hogan and Randy Macho Man Savage and Junkyard Dog and all of them, you were emulating them outside in the backyard or in the front yard by trying to do the moves to each other. So you're trying to do, this headlock, and you trying to do a DDT, you trying to do all these different moves that you saw on each other. And it was just all day long until the street lights came on, and then you had to go in the house. And now it's rare. It's almost like it's a sighting. It's like, oh wow, kids are outside. When you see a large group playing, I love when I go through a neighborhood and I'm having to slow down because it's kids on the street. Because that's how it was for us, but it was always like that. Cars would get mad because we're all in the street. We play street football, so we're always in the street. We was racing in the street and cars coming through. Mad. Yeah, because they're trying to get through and we're making them wait, and we running a play or something. And they get them and we'll kick the car or so to kick the wheel, then they'll hit the brakes and we'll all take off running. Like it was just all of that. It was just different, but they always say every older generation bashes the new generation, the younger generation. And the younger generation is like, oh, you're old and whatever. And it's always the thing of comparison where, because we've lived through all of these different stages in time to this current time where things are a certain way, we're comparing it to all the things we endured and experienced throughout our time. and they're comparing it to what is just right now for them.
Mhm.
You know, they don't know a time where you had the phone on the wall with the
Mhm.
long cord that you're talking on,
Mhm.
and they didn't know of someone calling. You had to click over and answer and say hello, or you know, whatever your parents wanted you to say, and then you had to get off the phone to give the phone to your parents, or you had a time where you had to be off the phone because it was the house phone.
Yeah.
So it's like
I
9
remember
o'clock.
that.
Don't have your friends calling here after 9
We
o'clock.
had a separate
So-
line, so it was a different ring.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
different. Yeah, so
Yeah.
all of that is just them. And then when the internet first hit, how it was so slow with the connection.
Mhm.
You know, it sounded like a fax machine
Mhm.
trying to connect. And
Mhm.
they don't know about any of that. They don't know how cell phones, when they first came out, all they could do was dial
Mhm.
and make a phone call. That was it. And the phone calls were not that good, but it was the fact you had a cell phone. You didn't care. You was all on it. So it's just,
It's just
it's all of
different.
that. Yeah, it's different. But I do think the masculinity is not there. And I think it's just because of the times of where we are, especially, you know, with all of the men wanting to be women, women wanting to be men, men questioning their sexuality so much today
Mhm.
compared to it was not even like you always had that one kid that was a little softer than the
Mhm.
rest. But now it's like half the classroom is like that. Like
Wow.
you go into these
Do you think
schools.
it's just because it's more accepted now and people, men feel freer to
I think
acknowledge
it's
it?
trendy. I think because you get attention for it.
Okay.
I think it's so trendy on both sides of the coin, male and
Mhm.
female. I think it's so trendy, and because social media has taken things to a level that is so extreme that everyone wants to be appreciated so much to
It
where
doesn't
they'll
matter
do
what.
anything. Yeah.
Okay.
They're like, oh, you know, I'm going to say I'm a girl today.
Mhm.
I'm going to say I'm bi today. I'm going
Mhm.
to say I'm this. And then people are like, oh, what? And then and now you getting this attention and you
Yeah.
feeling good about it. And then it's like, where are they at? You know, I always say, you know, what's the home like? To
Mhm.
me, everything always starts at the home. And if you don't have that good, strong support system at home, then the world has you at that point. Like
Yeah, that is
they
true.
say in the big cities, you know, it was the concrete jungle that
Mhm.
took all these kids in and spit them out, and that's what
Mhm.
you had. That's what the world had to deal with. So,
Mhm.
but
Well, I'd like to get your opinion, Kurt. I don't know if your mic is on or not.
yeah. But even if it's not, we can always hear you good on the
Well,
show.
Hear you.
Yeah.
there is a mic here now.
Yes.
For better and worse.
Yeah.
I think, as usual, I would say that it would be difficult. Again, limitations of language. What does masculine mean?
Mm.
So there was a lot of stupid things that happened when I was growing up because men were men and women were women, and men were expected to do certain things and act a certain way.
Mhm.
I think in some ways, media and medicine evolved to a point where, you know, there's a lot of people like, oh, kids today, they got helmets and elbow pads on and all these things. And it's,
Yeah.
you know, that they've got helmets and elbow pads on because they used to die when they fell down and hit their head. So
Mhm.
you can look at that as a bad thing or a good thing depending on where you're from.
I guess so, because I put a helmet on my children. Well, only one of them. But the
And
percentage
that's
of
the one that's smart. I'm just fucking.
what?
Okay. The one that don't have any brain damage because he.
No,
he put
none
it
of them
in-
ever failed.
Yeah.
But the
Nah.
thing is the percentage of that I understand why they did it, but I feel like the percentage of how they pushed it was if it was a large percentage of children that was fall hitting their heads. But they're like, well, I guess they're like, well, we could save them all.
Well, again, language is limiting here. So what's a large percentage of children, right? I mean,
Right.
if 100 kids fall and hit their head and die and you can stop that, isn't that a good thing? So that becomes the sort of question there to me. And then on top of that, the idea of what is masculine as we have had more and more women. Why this popped into my head today, actually. You know, you've got women who grow up now and they are not taught that you cook and clean and have babies. They're taught that you can go and have a career and work towards what you want. And to me, I don't think that that's a bad thing. I think that's probably a good thing, but that puts men and women in the same arenas where, say, 70, 80 years ago, it didn't exist. So, as to like the physicality, I think to what Martin said was true. I think people actually, it's funny, and in some ways we have more obesity today than we ever had.
Yeah.
It's almost like we've become this manic society. We have more obesity than we've ever had, but I think we've also probably got more people that are physically in top shape than we probably ever had before because of physical science and all these sorts of things.
Yeah.
Physical fitness science. But so to me, it is almost kind of a manic society. So a question of, and then the other piece, if you want to talk about masculinity and doing stupid shit, like if you want to talk about gang stuff like MS-13 and all that sort of stuff, I mean, we always talk about, oh, there's guys that want to be women or women that want to be men. But there's also a whole bunch of crazy people that are going around shooting people and doing crazy stuff all the time. And I don't think you can look past that. So, I don't know. I've said many times before, I don't think that we are that novel of a time. I think that all of this stuff existed 100 years ago. I think it'll exist 100 years from now. And I think if you want to find something to focus on and be upset about, you can. But for the most part, people are people and they're always going to be people. So.
There's nothing new under the sun. That's what they say. And I want to hone in on what you were saying about the women working the 9 to 5 and getting careers. I do have experience in both sides of that. I've been in the 9 to 5 and I went for a career, but when you have children and you're a wife doing that, it's very exhausting. So because of women are so in a nurturing behavior because how we're biologically made, we still have that need to be nurturing. And then when we're at work, we're nurturing. And what happens is we're depleted because the opposite sex is male. Y'all are not nurturing, right? So we get depleted. I've seen a lot of women that are now on antidepressants because they did go after their career and then they decided to have children. Now, I'm not speaking for women that they're just going after a career. They have no children. I don't know that part of it, but with speaking to a lot of women that have children, that have a career, that married, it is a large workload. And when I ask them, would you choose to either, stay home with your kids at this point or continue to do what you're doing? They always choose the more nurturing part because that is in our nature. So I'm not sure about at the end of our lives as female, I would be very interested to know a conversation with a woman if they feel fulfilled by choosing that path of the career, the 9 to 5, or if they would like to do it a different way and be just like, and I don't want to say role, but it really is a role because it's just how we're biologically made, It is.
I think it would be. I think that the answer for in my opinion, for the woman would change or potentially change
Yeah.
once they get in it. So maybe up front or early on, they're like, oh, I want to be a stay-at-home mom. And then they're like, oh, I really don't, I want to do something more than that. Maybe that's not enough for them. And then they're like, oh, I want to have a career. Or maybe it's the other way around. They get into their career and they accomplish things that they wanted to accomplish. And now they're like, I don't really want to do this no more. I just think it's part of the constant evolution of each individual to where they should be able to change within the decisions that they make. They shouldn't be held to where they have to stay in this one lane the whole time and be persecuted because they, wanted to have a career and now they're changing their mind. Because a lot of times people say, well, it's almost like they're being I can't think of the word, but it's like attacked. So there's someone that's like, oh, well, you chose that career. Like if someone is like, well, now I want to have a family and I'm older, and they're like, well, you chose that career. It's like, what, they can't change? Like they can't change their mind.
Right.
And, that was right for them in the beginning. That's what they wanted.
Yeah.
And now they're like, okay, now I want something else. And it should be okay. Everyone is judging everyone else. It's like, there's a saying where they're like, if everyone just worked on themselves and made themselves better, overall things would improve. And what that looks like, I don't know, because it depends on, do you think things need to improve? Or I just think it's a part of almost like part of just the destination. Wherever civilization ends up at, part of that destination is all the things that we've seen that's been recorded that we know of throughout this time that we've been here on this planet.
Yeah, I think as long as we are able to be nurturers, I think women are happy. Like,
men are nurturers too. We just, it's different.
And can you enlighten me? Because I don't know.
Because men like to tend to people just as well. It's a little different. And that's the difference between men and women, and just from individual to individual. You got some women who are, if you go by a standard of being a nurturer, they don't fit into that mold. And you have men, if there is a standard of a mold that you want to place on them, they might not fit into it. But I've seen where you have men where the kids are more up under the father than they are the mother in certain households. And it's because the father is more understanding. The father is more supportive, more willing to listen and not just attack them when they make a mistake, but say, okay, now did you learn from that? Did you, and then sometimes the way a man nurture might be different than the mother in the household. The mother might be the one that wants to cuddle and, hug them and kiss them and do all of that, where the man, his approach to nurturing might be, all right, let's talk about it. You understand it? You see what you did? You see this is the cause, this is the reaction. You understand? Now, next time you have a better understanding of this specific scenario you find yourself in. Take that, use that. Hopefully you don't make the mistake again or find yourself in that same situation, and you can apply it to other situations and you step into the world. That's still a form of nurturing. It's just different than the way a woman would nurture.
Okay, I like that.
I would say that also the big difference with human children is that women, of course, carry them. There's a physicality to that nurturing. So I guarantee if you talk with most husband and wives that have pets, you'll find even in our house, the relationship with the dogs tends to be, for me, is the dogs are very respectful of me. I'm very structured with them. The dogs like structure. Serena is very much more, sometimes it gets annoying where she just lets them do whatever they want. And I'm just waiting for something bad to happen. Because if you let kids just run around, somebody's getting punched in the mouth at some point.
You are absolutely
That's
correct.
going to happen. And so for me, is, she's got more than one picture of me laying in bed with Nico and my arm around him, and that nurturing aspect. But it's not the same. And with human children, of course, like I said, you're breastfeeding, you're carrying the kid for 9 months. There's a physicality that a man cannot.
And that's it, really. Now that I'm thinking about it.
Right.
Because you have enlightened me, because you are absolutely correct. I was very much nurtured by my father. My mother, she kind of served us. But when I look at it, like, I got more of the nurture part from my father. But I never realized it because, because you was interjecting and I wanted to finish my thought.
Your song? You want to finish
thought.
Your song?
I wanted to finish it because once I'm going to lose it, and I lost it.
I thought women could multitask.
I'm just going to drink some wine.
Drink that wine.
You go ahead.
All I was going to say is because you
Martin will answer for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, with your words is that's as each of us as individuals. I always talk about my appreciation for just each person of their own, and the fact that that's how you saw it. That's how you received it, as he was more nurturing than her, but maybe in her mind she was giving you all the nurturing that she thought. Like it depends on how you define, and that's always to me the challenge with people is, I told you, the assumption that's being made, and when we assume our assumptions benefit our thinking. So if I make an assumption, my assumption is usually based off the way I think and the way I perceive this situation. That gets removed when you actually have a conversation with that person or persons about that. And now you're like, okay, this is what I thought it to be. And they're like, oh no, this is what it was for me. And then you're like, oh, okay. And now everyone is enlightened because, the old saying is communication is key, and it is for everything, in my opinion. But, or you might be where your mother's like, she might say, or just in general, the other person might say, yeah, I wasn't. And they might have a reason for why they wasn't. And it might be something where they were always constantly working on it, but that was the balance with the two parents in the household. They knew the other one. Sometimes they're like, well, I know the other one has that. It's almost, like in business, they always talk about how you always stick to your strengths. You need to be aware of the things that you're not as good at, but you don't need to waste time with that. Stick to where your strengths are, because there's going to be someone else who is good at the things you're not as good at. So when you're building a team, you don't build a team with everyone who has the same strength as you. You build a team with people who have strengths in the area that you are not as strong in, or weak in, or areas of opportunity, or whatever you want to use.
I would say that the challenge to that metaphor is with mothers. There are some mothers who can't breastfeed, for instance. Maybe they use formula, but all of us were dependent on our mothers for at least close to 9 months before we were born. And so in a corporate setting, there's no dependence. In something outside of the womb, there's no dependence. When you are in a womb, you are dependent on that person that is carrying you. Everything comes from that. So that, again, that physical connection and whatever else comes with that is something that can't be replicated once it's outside. I think once a baby is born, a father can be as nurturing or more nurturing. There's plenty of bad mothers. So you can have that, but it's likely ingrained within us that 9-ish months, I'll call it, because some of us are born earlier or later. But I would say that that's probably ingrained with us. within us.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's always that connection with the mother to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And then the mother, of course, always has that physical memory. I'm sure.
I was
gonna say, yeah, you can talk to that better than I can, but
Mhm.
you must have even to this point, that feeling
Yeah.
going along with it.
Yeah. I despise it so much.
And what is it?
It's a
Yes.
feeling that it's a separation feeling that you have once you have the child, but you you don't know what it is. And I had to figure it out because I felt like, I don't know, I can't even give you the emotion. It was as when something is inside of you, feeding on you for 9 to 10 months, and then all of a sudden they're no longer doing that. It's a
Yeah.
sense of mourning that you do go through. I know I went through it. I'm not sure how many other mothers go through it, but I think it's just it's
Is
an
that the
attachment.
post traumatic thing they
It
talk
may
about?
be. I'm not sure. I was
Yeah. Thank you.
but I do feel that I've had this conversation with other mothers, and they had the same emotion once they was out of us.
Is instant like that, or
It's
is
not
it?
instant. It's weird, and that's why a lot of women continue to get pregnant. It's because they like that emotional, physical
Oh.
attachment. Yeah, or something like feeding off of them, or taking care of them, like your body taking care of them. I cannot explain it to you. But every year, like when your child gets older and older, it's like it's further and further away. It's so stupid. That's why I said I despise it. It's
Yeah.
because like I can remember wanting to make them back small so they could depend on me more.
So let me ask you: is that the the saying you hear women say? You never hear men say, but women always like the smell of a newborn, and now it makes them want to have a baby again.
Yeah, it's just going through the whole connection piece of it, because nothing else is ever connected to you in that capacity ever. And but when I was pregnant, I was like, it's an alien taking over. Like I was so dramatic with it, when it was happening. I was like, this is not normal. But after, I had my babies, I was just like, oh my God.
I
Like,
missed it.
I missed it.
You want another one?
No. It's just not at all.
Okay.
But it's just something that I had to realize, like, this is like, you have to go through the process of something detaching from you that was attached to you at one point in time.
Yeah.
It's an emotion with that.
So let me ask, so each time you smell a newborn, does that feeling emerge? And then
I could say yes. And that's
then
why
it goes away.
I could say that's why sometimes I won't hold babies.
Oh, you literally will not hold a baby.
Absolutely.
So it's not like because you don't like the mother or the baby's ugly.
You're not about to put me back there. Yeah.
Because you're aware of that emotion.
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
I am. And I have had women around me, like they'll hold the baby and then they'll say, that makes me want to have a baby all over again. I get what they're saying, but do you really? Like, let's go through everything we had to go through to get this baby where they is now. Do you really want to do that? But so for me, I just don't hold them. I'm like, oh, it's so cute. And like I've had friends that have, had babies after I had my babies, and I have to let them know that, it's nothing against the baby. I just don't want to go through that emotion. I'm being very selfish, I don't want to hold you. I don't want to hold your baby. Or if I see a pregnant woman, sometimes I would go, oh God. And
remembering when you were pregnant,
and the things that I had to go through. Yeah. And sometimes I feel bad for them when they get really, really big. And then I'm like, oh my God.
Big because the baby, or big because they just
the baby
don't know how to push
just
them.
the baby.
Okay.
The baby. And then I'll even go back to like sleeping. Like you don't get sleep at the last part of it. It's because of the way the baby's positioned, and then the baby has an eating cycle. They wake up at a certain time when you are trying to sleep. that joker want to be moving. So I have empathy when I see a pregnant woman, and
Because you know
I know what
the
they're
experience.
going through.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know my mother would always tell the story of I was long, and she
Mhm.
said I was like my feet or whatever was like in her ribs. She said sometimes it was hard for her to breathe
Yeah.
because I was so long and there's only so much room
Mhm.
in there. And she would tell me about that all the time. She was like she was ready,
Yeah.
for me to come out.
My babies got their first spanking. When I mean, people might not be into spanking, but they got their first spanking inside.
Yeah, you were
Because
sitting in your belly.
heck yeah,
I
you
was
were-
playing. You serious? You
No,
were sitting-
if you swear,
you hit your belly to get them to move, though.
yes,
Okay.
I would do that. I would like move it. Like
Yeah.
I'm serious too because I'm hurting and you over there like relaxing. And
I don't
shit.
know if I've seen a mother do that
You
before.
cannot do that.
A pregnant. I'm trying to think if I've ever seen a pregnant woman hit, and like I'm thinking if I seen it and just ignored it. 'Cause I didn't.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure we will. Like I wouldn't. Some people might do it gently and try to move.
Now, I've seen that, so that's what they're doing.
Yeah, but mine's I
okay.
mean, it was stubbornness going on. That did not work. But whatever,
Yeah.
if I do like that, they'll move.
So then what would make now is I'm saying this as if I'm not a father, but now I'm thinking about it from the son of the woman. When you go through all of that, and then you're like, okay, now I'm gonna have another one. Why would you have another one?
Like I told you, like it's worth it. It's like it's the same way you ask someone is all of that you went through to build that business, all that trouble, all that other. Why would you
And
do
now
another
you're building
one?
another business.
Yeah. It's the product outweighs what you went through to get it.
You hope some of these
Why
kids.
would you get married again?
Why would I get married again if I was to get
it's the
married again?
same question.
Yeah,
So
it's the same thing.
You
Yeah,
were
it's
married and it didn't work out and it was probably painful. And why would you go through
like, why
it?
would you go through it again? Yeah,
Because you're looking to get married again.
Hey, I'm always open. It would be different. It would be different.
Well, because you're older, you've been married before, so you have an understanding
of what it is, and but the core, like whatever happens, but the core of me, because about how I was raised, it will always have that yearning to have that type of relationship. And I don't know what type of, it'll be my own type of union or whatnot, but I will always have that urge because of the core of how I was raised and what I've seen, how relationship, healthy relationship is. However, I don't need nothing, or like I don't have. I could say yeah, do it, but I don't have like that. Yeah, some women get out of a marriage and they're like, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to get in it, But everybody's different,
right. I've always heard when people say when the first marriage doesn't work, that second one does for a lot of people.
Because
I've seen it.
Me too. Because you do things, you get more grace. Especially depends on what age you get. You got married and whatnot, and then the way you choose is totally different when you're older. You're not just choosing like
based off of physicality,
right? The physicality. I mean, like, the sex is good. You can't go nowhere. Like, it's
there's more to it as you get older.
Yes.
But again, because your experience as far as you've lived life, so you've gone through the ups and downs of things. You have that now on your belt to have a better understanding of things.
And I'm grateful that I went through 20 years of.
I was still talking, but go ahead. No, go ahead.
Of 20 years.
You just slid right in. I took a breath. Breath.
That's all that counts. You just go ahead and slide up in there. I say. But yeah. So
slide up in there.
Yeah.
So how's it?
Uh-huh.
Show me again.
So you made me lose my train of thought.
Small brain.
Maybe so. But I don't know. I'm just gonna take a sip.
Man.
So you go ahead since I was
because you always say that when people say the first marriage doesn't work, usually the second one does, and then you see people who have been married multiple times, and when you talk to them, men or women, I've had conversation with both, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm looking to get married again," and this is like number 4, number 5.
They're trying to get it right.
I guess, or to me, it just reminds me of people who like being in relationships. It's just, instead of a boyfriend girlfriend, it's marriage. So you have people who are always in a relationship.
Well, I could say, well, for me, like, I could see how relationships help you become a better person. If you really are, when you're in a relationship, aware of the things that you might need to work on that nobody pointed out to you. So I do feel like relationships are a reflection of who you are. And I think that sometimes when people are like, always have to be in a relationship, that's something that they're trying to figure out within themselves, and they may not be aware of it. But I think that's exactly what you're doing when you're like, kind of like always needing that relationship. But for me, I have relationships with so many, well, not many, but my core, you
out there.
I know, right? So I have relationships with a core group of individuals.
It sounded like you were talking about being with a lot of men, but go ahead. That's how you
took it. Because no, I did not subscribe.
Kurt winked at me too.
I don't subscribe. Like, no, ladies, we ain't gonna get on that.
I know how to wink, so
you don't know how to wink.
It was the glare in the glasses. That's all I needed.
No, I feel like it should be a small amount of people that you have different relationships with, but I feel like they'd still help you to continue to grow. But like I said before, the core of me see how my parents have grown over the years. I've seen what that is like. I've seen how they were when they was in their 20s, supposed to be in their 60s. And, maybe, other people could have helped them grow in such a way, but when I see them, how authentically that they're their authentic self when they are around somebody, when they're around themselves. I mean,
each other.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to say. Thank you.
They're not playing a role or depicting themselves a certain way for that person. And how long have your parents been married?
Oh, how old am I? So 46 years.
Wow.
46 years. So, and that is what's, I'm envious of that,
congrats on that. I mean,
I don't see I see people wearing a mask all the time, sometimes, or, but it's hard to be around someone and you just, the person you are when you alone, that person with around somebody.
Yeah. But it's because it takes time. So,
you're right.
My whole thing is not rushing into like people. I've had this conversation, and people are always saying to me, they're like, well, you have to take this step and then that step and then that step. And I always say, you don't build, and again, it's just so truly opinionated, it's subjective. But in my mind, you don't build on that type of relationship where you are completely yourself, meaning you allow yourself to be vulnerable. Mm-hmm. Like, if to be vulgar with it, burping, passing gas in front of the person and not feeling any kind of way. Mm-hmm. And when you get to that point with someone, that's not overnight. That's not because we sat down and asked all these questions.
Right.
Like that doesn't do anything. That just means you asked a question, I gave you an answer. Anybody can do that. Right. It's how you react and respond to things. How do you deal with the emotions when things come up between the two of you? How are you with me when I show you something you've never seen before? Mm-hmm. And how am I with you in the same regards when you show me something? Because the more you spend time with someone, the more you start to reveal yourself. And then if people react or respond a certain way to what you just revealed and open up to them, you might shut that back down and they'll never see that part of you again.
Right. So. Yes, that's how I am. I'll be like, I'm going to go ahead and put that in my pocket. You ain't ready for all that.
I'll throw an opinion here since Serena and I have known each other now since so 34 years we've known each other. We've been
That's-
married for 23 years.
Oh, congrats. on
And
that,
we were
too.
dating 10 years before that. So I think some of the things that you're talking about can't happen after a certain point.
Mhm.
So we met when we were teenagers,
Mm-hmm.
and we went through our 20s and we went through our 30s, and we went through all the same BS that everybody else goes through,
Yeah.
all the high school breakups and the college stuff and cheating and all that sort of stuff. Like we went through all of that sort of stuff while we
Mhm.
were growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And we know each other now as well as we know better than we know anybody else.
Right.
We've got 3.5 decades of knowing
Right.
each other.
Mhm.
You know where we are now. If we broke up or divorced,
That's it.
I'm never gonna get to know somebody that well.
On that level.
You're just not gonna get to know somebody that well. I think the best thing you can do, and the most important thing all of us can do, is to understand who we are,
Mm-hmm.
be honest with ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
and then present ourselves honestly and transparently with the people that we care about.
Mhm.
So as I get older, that becomes something, and some people might say that I am uncouth, right? Or I'm not sensitive, right? Because I might present myself in a way that is challenging to some people. But at the same point, I think that the most important thing we can do is be who we are. And so you need, as you get older, you need to accelerate those relationships.
Mm-hmm.
It's not worth pretending to be someone
Exactly.
so that you can be with some
Uh-huh.
other people.
Yeah, yeah. But unfortunately, I think sometimes we are so used to the mask. Is you just because I've been on dates
Mhm.
and the mask is there. You know, I had to learn how because I've been in a relationship for so long and married for so long. I didn't come out with the mask because I was used to being me. You know, I had to realize very quickly that that's not the world that I'm entering into. Like, no, people are not authentic. You know, it's only a small percentage of people that are. And so I have to act accordingly. You know, you have to conform to the environment that you're going into, type of thing. But I'm very aware when I do it. But it's real. I wish that people had the chance to be authentic but you're talking about dating people that maybe never been married or
The
never
thing is, though, that you don't
So-
have to conform to the environment. You have to understand the environment you're in.
Mhm.
It's then on you whether you conform to it or not.
Yeah,
That's
it's-
true.
So
and
that's
I like
the
that.
biggest thing. So,
Yeah, I'm experimenting
and,
because sometimes I do conform and then sometimes I'm just aware and just maybe I leave because I can't even accept the environment I'm in or you know what I'm saying. So
yeah, and then the self awareness. You know, we talked about it numerous times on the show.
Mhm.
Just the self worth, getting to know who you are. Just as Kurt mentioned, and you know, that's a big proponent for me is understanding you, because then you can the chances of your relationships with others is going to be a lot better for it to be positive and progressive and, you know, constantly expanding and growing. That percentage is a lot higher when you are fully aware of who you are, because then when you know who you are, then you know the people you align with. Like it's no need for me, but it goes back to the mask or the masquerade or, you know, the way people want to depict themselves because they think this is what they want, or they think they want to be a part of this type of group, or they want to be in this kind of relationship. And it's because they've yet to work on themselves yet. And once you work on you and you know who you are, and it's always, it's a constant work in progress. You're constantly learning things because you're constantly changing and evolving. But knowing those things, so when you interact and you meet someone, that communication is there and is present. And now you have hopefully two people who are at that stage in their lives where they are honest about who they are.
Mhm.
And now you can say, oh, I do like kicking it with you, and other things that we do together are, you know, pleasant. And then when they're not as pleasant, I'm okay with it. You know, because I like you for you being you.
Right.
I don't like you for being what I've created you to be for me.
Yeah.
But that takes time for
It
people to
does.
get there, and everyone is on their own different. Like everyone is different. So, and there's no right or wrong to it. Some people are always going to be in that masquerade.
I would say the number one thing is what you were talking about is the number one thing is not anything as deep as that. The number one thing is people who you need to be honest with yourself and others, and then people need to accept you for who you are. Serena would much prefer that on a Friday night I was upstairs hanging out with her. She would much prefer that.
Yeah.
And I'm downstairs hanging out with the two.
Oh, well,
of
we
you.
were about to wrap it up.
No, well, I'm just
I'm just kidding.
I'm just saying that is. But I get something that makes my life more enjoyable by doing this, and she knows that and understands that. And if I was just up there all the time, it wouldn't. I would be, as much as I can be a sort of curmudgeon as it is to begin with.
Mhm.
I would be much more of a curmudgeon if I didn't have this creative outlet. So she knows that, she understands that about me, and she allows it to happen.
Yeah.
And she has things on her side that I don't necessarily agree with, but I know that it makes her more able to be present in things when we are together. So that's the big piece. What ends up killing a lot of relationships, in my opinion, in my experience, I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, but it's because people aren't open and honest and transparent, and the other person is either unaware of who that person is or they are unaccepting of who that.
Well,
Exactly.
cheers to that, because that is
Exactly.
exactly what will make your relationship end.
Yeah, that's why I always say appreciating people for who they are. And then that whole masquerade, like Kurt was saying, that's always a challenge. But I will say all the time, communication. It's just it's key, but it has to be from both. Like you said, with the open mind. Everyone, it's okay. Everyone has, you know, like their own thoughts on things. So they have, if you want to call it, an agenda with certain things. And you talk to people. Relationships it's always been the topic of discussion. It's just now is because of social media. It's just everywhere, but it's always been.
And a lot of people want to get it right. And it's really no right or wrong. It's just like what Kurt was saying. It's just
it's what's right for you and the person you're with.
Right.
It's not going to be right. What's right for me and the person I'm with is not right for you.
Right.
And your person, the same way as what's right for Kurt and Serena is not right. May not be right for me. There'll be similarities.
Yeah.
In it, but because I'm not Kurt.
Yeah.
And Serena is not
but I think,
woman I'm with.
I think overall, when you give advice, when you've been in a relationship long term, I think that weighs a lot for someone that is looking to be in a relationship.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I think the advice
you want to take that.
Right. The advice that's being made through social media. Sometimes I might listen. Sometimes I'll be like, have you been married? Or it's so weird to hear certain individuals even talk about relationships, because then when they talk about themselves, they haven't even been in any relationships. So it's like, what experience are you coming from? So, you know, I feel like with the human existence, like we have all types of relationships going on with our mothers, our fathers, our friends, co-workers. And I think, like I said before, it is a reflection of who we are. And I believe that we get better the closer we get to individuals, it's like the closer that we're getting to ourselves, if that makes sense. But that's how I view it. Are we finished?
I was gonna say that sounds like
Yeah, that sounds like
This
a rapper.
wine, I know. Let me
What?
kind of. It's so good. I feel great. A dark. So
oh, is that apothic?
mhm.
Yeah.
It's very good because I haven't even finished my glass, but I'm feeling really tasty. So I do need a favor from either one of you. I need somebody to back out of the driveway because I drove into the driveway, and it's dark out there. That's why I couldn't back in. So I'm just gonna ask a man. See how I did that, ladies? Tips.
We'll take care of you.
Thank you. Oh, you were like, you don't want to?
You show up late.
Well,
and
by
then-
the way, trust me, from a physical standpoint, Serena would much rather be married to Martin. But once the physical aspect ends,
Right, right.
it's much more difficult.
Yes, it's that part you have to look at. Physical don't go too far.
I always say it fades.
Mhm.
It's like a new toy.
It is.
You know, you play with it, and then it's like, okay. Then it's like, all right, what else?
Yes, so I love that analogy because my youngest, he would have this favorite toy, right? And the toy was named Hendrix, and I don't know why this toy was
Hendrickson.
Hendrix. And this is his favorite toy. And we would get him new toys, and he'll be so like happy to get these new toys. And then he'll just go back to Hendrix. It didn't matter what new toy he was given. He would always get over it, and he would go back to this day. And he don't even play with Hendrix. Ain't even got a head, y'all, and he still has Hendrix.
It's a action figure.
It's an action figure. It's like a airman. It's an airman. I don't know what the deal was with that one, but if we would lose it, we would go and buy him another Hendrix. It's been replaced a couple of times, but he doesn't know that. That's how you do. Tips for parents. Yeah. But thank you guys for watching another episode of Random Thoughts. Bravo
Yeah,
Speaks.
Bravo Speaks.
Yes.
As always, we're in the basement at
In the
Flux
basement.
Studio
Yes.
with
I
our
like the basement.
internationally known engineer of the last two and a half decades.
It's a hat.
Kurt is in the building with his assistant, Nico.
There you go. Thank you guys. Till next time.